Morning, Angela, Professor Angela James. It's nice to see you here with us, together with my students, and we continue our work. This is last part for our today lectures, and I'm going shortly to introduce you to my students. Professor Angela James from Kwazulu-Natal University in South Africa, in Durban, city in Durban, near Indian Ocean. It's southeast part
of southeast. East.
Okay.
Not southeast.
Okay.
Geography is wrong.
Geography depends on it depends. Where is center of the world? Center of the world is obviously Lithuania, and in particular Šiauliai, because it's Sun City, as you know. And Professor Angela he has good and large experience in different activities, different things. Obviously, first of all, she is a teacher, lecturer, cluster leader, acting head, faculty advisor, evaluator, supervisor, examiner, and many other functions, etc. And obviously quite large research interest. And today Angela is going to share with us this interesting topic, community engagement. This is related also to our module. Please, Angela, it's your time.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much, and good morning, Prof. Lamanauskas, and good morning, students. It really is a wonderful opportunity and a privilege to share our work from the southern region. You know, they keep dividing us into the global north and the global south. At the end of the day, we are the world, so we must stop thinking in that way. Okay, so the work that I'm going to be sharing with you is what I've been doing over so many years. And it's looking at community engagement. But I think before I start with that, I just wanted to say, in terms of our university, you'll see the first visual. You can see that. There are 5 campuses. And we are based on the Edgewood campus. That's that first campus there. And there are other campuses throughout Durban and also in another city called Pietermaritzburg. Our campus is really focusing on teacher professional development or teacher professional learning, if that's the way we want to say it, because development has a very bad connotation, especially within the African context. And I'll speak to that a bit more later on. So within the School of Education, we have over 6,000 students. Within our university, we have close on to 50,000 students. We were the largest, but now we're the second largest after the University of Pretoria. And we are a research-led institution. And within South Africa, we rate probably the 3rd or the 4th, depending on what criteria and what particular global standards we are actually working with. So within community engagement, the way in which I'm going to be presenting it is from a practical wisdom perspective. And I'm going to say that again, practical wisdom, and slowly. And the word that we use is phronesis, Phronesis, and that's an Aristotelian term. And really what it does mean is that we come, every one of us, come with our own perspectives, our own perceptions, our own theories about how we learn, how children learn, how teaching and learning takes place, what should education be. And yet in many instances, when we are studying or when we are within a particular module, we are always told about someone else's theory, and never do we come to the point where we can actually start saying, what is my theory? Before we even start looking at what the other theories are. And I think I studied psychology. So in studying psychology, I always thought, yeah, I mean, I also had those ideas, but now his one is written in the book because he can write and actually put more theory to what is being written. And I think this is what we need to think about when we're speaking about education, particularly education with a focus on communities and looking at community education. So within this, when we're working with our students, exactly how I've introduced it with you, that's how we would be working with our particular students. And it's important that now my slides are not moving. Okay, and it's important that we raise a lot of questions. So yes, we go into and we start a particular module with our own thinking, and then we raise questions. And these questions, if we do this with every single thing that we do, you'll be surprised how much you will actually discover about yourself. So it's the what, the who, the why, the where, the when, and so many other types of questions. And notice I have spoken about the fact that we are research-led. So it's not just that our research is only informing our work that we're doing, but the fact that our work also informs the research that we are doing. So there's a mutual relationship between all of that. And we need to be very cognizant of the fact that our work and our underlying thinkings about what can be, what is something that is significant, it is valid, and it needs to be unpacked and explored. So I'm not a traditional lecturer, and I think you will notice from the way in which I am presenting now. So I've given you an intro to community engagement. I've given you some questions. Now, I would like you on a page just to write down one sentence about what is your perspective with regard to engaging with communities. Just 1 minute. And in that minute, I am going to try and actually get to this video that I have in the slide. So 1 minute. And if English is an issue with you, which it should not be, Lithuanian is an issue with me. Ooh, I don't know when I'll learn it. Yeah, but anyway, I should be learning it sometime. Okay, so here we're looking at this. You've got your minute, and I think your minute is finishing up quite quickly. So what is your perspective? What does it entail? Who does it involve? What does it involve? Where can it be done? You see all these types of questions. And there are lots of dogs barking. So if you hear the dogs, please excuse me. I can't control dogs barking. Okay, let's see if this video is going to open, and I want you to listen to this video. Can you see the video?
No.
No. Okay. Let me go back into the... Now I am going to be a bit challenged. Okay, there's it there. There's it there, and I want to see the video. Hang on. Now this is taking up time. I just need to... Okay, I just want you to listen to the music. I think that's best. They are, and when we're looking at this and we want to understand what is actually happening, no, I don't want that, Michael Jackson. Okay, so when you were listening to that, and I didn't want you to watch the video, the visuals, I would like you in your own time. It's a Michael Jackson song, and the title is Man in the Middle. And we use this when we're working with our students. Now, there's a lot of controversy when we look at the visuals that are used in this particular video. There are videos of homeless people, but the homeless people are only Black. There's war that is happening, but the war is only in Iran, for example. There is so much in terms of poverty, but it's only among certain groups of people. So the visuals that we have and that we use in our research and in our teaching really play important roles, because remember, they also carry messages. So it's not just the text that has the message, it's the visual as well. So as teachers working with communities, we have to take cognizance and we have to value and respect the community individuals. And that is why in particular spaces, when we visit those places, we are told that we cannot take any pictures. And if you think about it, if you're conducting any research, you have to do ethical clearance in order for you record people, whatever the case may be. So an important aspect to consider here is that using that piece of music brings about so many aspects. I mean, I could use that one song of Michael Jackson's and actually have 3 or 4 lectures of 90 minutes each linked to every aspect of that video. And if you listen to the words, so we spoke about the visuals, now let's speak about the words. And if you look at the word, listen to the words, it's man in the mirror. So I'm seeing myself here, and man in the mirror is seeing yourself. And it's important in life that we always think about change. And the significance of change is that change with a capital C is with others. It's not change that I make for you, or change that I think you need, or change that somebody else thinks I need. No, it is in participation, it is in collaboration, and it's within a community. And the community context may be so different, and that is why the changes that would be happening, or the changes that are discussed and planned, is that which the community collectively decide on and act on. So in our community engagement, you can quite clearly see that some of the principles that we are working on is linked to all of that. Now you'll notice that I'm not even going to give you a whole lot of theory, neither am I going to be quoting a whole lot of different individuals. You can research that on your own. You've got access to so many platforms where you can access the meaning of community engagement, etc. What I'm working on with you is showing and really working with the active learning and the sharing that we need to be working with continuously, because our lives are in action. Our lives are not in a text, in a book, or in a research journal that nobody reads, or maybe 2 or 3 people read. Our lives are in action. So how do we live our lives in action and also with enhancement with others? And these are the essential things that we need to think about. So when we're reading anything, or when we're watching anything, and when we're working with our students and they go out into the communities and they come back and they report on what they have actually observed, what we need to think about is how something appears is always a matter of perspective. It's from your self-interpretation. So what we need to think about is, in theories that are being developed, how are those theories developed? And if we're looking at, for example, feminist theory, or if we're looking at educational learning theories, the theories are different, but essentially, when we do an analysis of each of those theories, it's linked to learning, it's linked to engagement, it's linked to interactions and action. So whatever theory you're looking at within our sphere of education, each of those theories are linked to you as an individual, and you really need to start thinking about, okay, so what is my theory? What is my perspective? How and what has informed that particular perspective? And how do I use that in teaching and in engaging with learners in the classroom, in engaging with community, etc. So when we look at this, we need to be circumspect about who we are in the process of knowing. And that's very important. So I'm not saying learning now. Who are we in the process of knowing? What knowledges do we bring or do we share with the learners in our classrooms? Are we only sharing perspectives from a Western perspective? Do we integrate Eastern? Do we integrate Middle Eastern? Do we integrate Southern American? Do we integrate African? So we are looking at indigenous knowledges and how these come to bear in what we are experiencing. So in this first part, really, I have been taking you on a journey of your self reflection and your self introspection in terms of who you are with regard to community engagement. And quite clearly, now we're just going to go into policy. So what I will do is go into some policy aspects, not much of it, so that you understand the perspective and how what we do within our School of Education actually links to what is happening globally, what is happening locally, and what is happening nationally within our South African setting or our South African context. And thereafter, we will look at particular case scenarios, and then you can ask questions in between, you can stop me, whatever it is that you'd like to do. I'm quite happy with that. Okay. So when we look at the frameworks for community engagement, I think all of you are familiar with the SDGs. The Sustainable Development Goals, and we understand that there are 17 of them, and within our community engagement, those are the ones that we focus on, although I must tell you that every one of them is also priority. So number one, which is poverty, no poverty, is something that we are working on in a daily basis in our South African context, where poverty is so high, unemployment is high, our socioeconomic standing is very low at this point in time. And I think if you look globally, especially after the impact or the so-called after effects of COVID-19, so many people are going through so many different types of experiences. Okay, so it's 4, 2, 3, 5, 11, 13, 16, 17. I will give this PowerPoint to your prof, and he can actually send that to you if you are interested. So it's important that we underpin whatever we do in terms of a global context. We cannot be secular, we cannot be so localized that we do not understand what is happening around the world and around us. And then when we look at our South African policy with regard to community engagement, quite clearly all HEIs, which are the higher education institutions, there are 26 of them. I'm aware that the last prof, what's Andre's surname again? Vincentas, what's Andre's surname again?
Andre presented about system.
Yeah, but what's his surname again? I want to be respectful to him. Prof who? Andre?
Duplessis.
Prof Duplessis. I forgot. You see, that's an Afrikaans surname. I speak English and I speak Afrikaans and a bit of isiZulu. Okay, so all HEIs, there are 26 of them, and I know that Prof Duplessis gave you all the context about South Africa, the history, etc. So I'm not going into all of that in detail, but I will refer to that from time to time. And really, all our HEIs are expected. We have both public and private HEIs, and all of them are expected to integrate community engagement within their structures. We have a national plan for higher education, as you can see, and here responsiveness to national needs through academic programs, research, and community service. So you can quite clearly see our university, even though it is research-led, has 3 legs. And the 3 legs are community engagement. I start with that because that's the center for me. I don't care about other people. Community engagement, teaching and learning, and then research. Because if you think of it, so much research is done in communities and with communities. So how can you do that research if you don't have links with communities? So that's why I say community is the center. Okay, so we also have another policy with regard to higher education. And then within our university now, our structure, we have goal 3, which promotes high impact. And I hate the word impact. I would like to put the word change, societal and stakeholder community engagement, because impact doesn't necessarily mean that there has been a change. So we need to look at what changes are we engaging with when we're working with our communities. And I think what is important here is looking at contribute through knowledge to prosperity and sustainability of KZN, which is our province, and nation building by connecting with and committing ourselves to the stakeholders and communities that we serve. Now, think about it. I'm going to be introducing a word called, or a term called, service learning just now, and I want you to try and link it to this particular policy that we are working with here. The next one, if we look at our School of Education now, and the sector that I'm responsible for, which is community engagement, we have a tagline, and our tagline is engaging with communities, we all grow. Now notice the words that I'm using and making us think. I speak about the word change, and now I'm speaking about the word grow. And it's so significant for us that we are not using the word develop. What do we mean when we speak about develop? And when we speak about grow, notice here that that's our particular logo that we have. And that's obviously, Nelson Mandela spoke about the Rainbow Nation. And yes, this is typical of the Rainbow Nation that we have. And I've been questioned, so where's the other colors of dark brown and black and, and white? And so it's a logo. So yes, we would have to obviously look at how we change that. And here, what I've also put in this particular slide is a picture of learners that we have presently been involved with. One of our projects, and I'll talk to that project, is where the learners and teachers within schools in impoverished areas have set up fantastic gardens, and they're growing their own food crops. So grow is significant in all aspects of our life, because even the food that we eat comes from that which has been grown. Okay, now when we go on to back to our South African context. So we've looked at policy, we've looked at it from the international, national, and local. And in order for us to work in community engagement, we need to understand our context. What is our context? And in our context that is described there is very much linked to what we have, both in our province and the other 8 provinces that we have. So we have 9 provinces and we have 12 official languages, not like in Lithuania, 1 official language. Can you see how mono you people are? And we are hetero. We are so diverse. We are such exciting people to be with. Hey, Lamanauskas, Prof. Lamanauskas, that you won't believe how many people come and all they want to do is come back and back and back, because we are rich in history, we are rich in culture, we are rich in languages, we are rich in spirit. So in terms of the context, yes, 21st century citizen, we're beginning with ourselves and the passion and the niche areas that we need to understand within our community engagement. How we assess community engagement and the quality is essentially important. And I'm a member of a South African national body where just yesterday in our meeting we were looking at how should we be assessing our community engagement across our universities. And within our University of Kwazulu-Natal, we have 4 flagships, and whatever work we do should fit into those four flagships. So it's African health, big data and informatics, social cohesion, and African cities of the future. And obviously CE, community engagement and marginalized people. And you would have heard from that music of Michael Jackson. He speaks about people who are homeless, who don't have places, people who are in war. So these are marginalized people. And we need to understand that we work with marginalized people and we work with all peoples, not just marginalized people. And obviously mentors and internationalization. And when we look at now this, so I've been speaking with you about all this, and then we've got to stop and we've got to say, in community engagement, if we're looking at assessment, if we're understanding who we are in this particular process, it's so important that cartoons that we have express what we are thinking and feeling. And I must say to you that when we start these modules with students, it's like, oh no, I can't be in this module. There's just too much work. I'm out. And we say, come back tomorrow. Let's have a discussion with you. And I can tell you this first step, I won't do it, is a step that many students actually work with. So one of the things as teachers in the making, or as pre-service teachers, whatever the case may be, we have to look at how do we work and engage and integrate motivation in the work that we do. And I read something the other day that, and it made me think very much so. It said that really we do not need to motivate people. People need discipline. And that is so true, because if we work with our young people and we enculture discipline in the way they do things and how things are expected, then motivation is not important to drive them. Motivation is there to keep them on track, and just to put a bit of light and to put a greater maybe beam in front of them and also behind them to lift them so that they can move forwards. And these are things that we need to think about. And you know, in working with students, yes, I did it. There was a student in one of the projects that we were working in, phoned me on a Sunday morning in tears and said, I completed the write-up. And these were students who were intensely involved in this one particular module. So community engagement is within the modules that we do, it's within the university structures that we have, and it's within the community sectors. It is holistic and it's all-rounded. And we have to think about, so how can we work with all of this in the process of how we work with it? Okay. So now, where am I? Okay. Here I want to share, this is one of the projects that we were doing with students, and we did this over 4 years basically. And this is with students who are going to go and work out in communities, and we have to prepare them for what it is that they're going to be meeting up with, how to set up relationships, because when the students go and work out in communities, I do not say this is where you need to go. They decide what their interest is and they decide where to actually work. Once they have decided, there's a contract that they sign, and they then get a letter from me to say that they are students and this is what they are doing. And we need to prepare them. So we do a course on mindfulness. And this mindfulness training is actually done by a person who does mindfulness or yoga. And he works with the students. So he'll come, he'll do 5 sessions with the students, and then he's gone again. We also have, just to give you another example, is we've just completed a program with teachers, both geography and natural sciences teachers. We get funding to do this. So we've got over 5 million rand to actually work on these particular projects. And this particular project is looking at continuous teacher professional development. And all of our projects, the reason why I'm sharing this is all of our projects are underpinned by a theoretical framework. And this one is obviously underpinned by the laureate framework, which looks at local, contextual and relevant contexts. So you have to work with where you are, and if you're going to work with changes, work with communities where you are located. It is senseless looking at global, trying to act globally, and yet you're not acting locally. So that whole thing of think global, act local is essentially important in the LORET model that we use. So this is actually important, and you can quite clearly see here that it engages, or we engage with action research, action learning, in order for our teachers that we're working with and the learners that they then go and teach, and the projects that they then do at the various schools. And you can quite clearly see there's a river cleanup that's happening here with the Sitingile High School. There's gardening that is happening. There's an exhibition and presentations that is happening. So it is so, and this is only one project, and this one project took us 3 years. And obviously it extended, obviously because of COVID. We should have finished it last year, but it extended into this year, and we completed our full research report based on this as well. So when we're looking at community engagement, it's linked to teaching and learning, as I said, it's linked to research, and it's linked to what we do with our communities as well. We also have an international perspective, and this international perspective has a vision and mission. And I've taken this slide from my colleague, who is Professor Manik. And here you'll see that she's actually in Norway with one of our colleagues and one of the lecturers in Norway. So yes, we have internationalization, and we have exchanges with staff and students. And I must say that we do have an MOU with your particular university as well. So it's important that we think about how do we work with all of that. And there's numbers there that give you how many international students we have. And our international students come mainly from Africa, from Congo, from Uganda, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Zimbabwe, from Angola, from Mozambique. And yeah, and a lot of those students come within the postgrad sector. So we do have some in the undergrad sector, but many of them are from the postgrad sector. Here, what I'm sharing with you is we had visitors from the University of Denver, from the College of Education. And here we took them, and this was now in September. It was in October. We took them on a visit to one of the schools that we work with in the township area. And she's the Dean of Education within the college. It's Morridge College at University of Denver. So we were present at the school, and we were looking at a program that was being presented by one of our partners, which is called Numeric, which is an after-school maths program. And they use our students as coaches, and they get coached, and they go and they teach in this program. And they are busy with 8 schools. This is a visual of learners in grade R learners, so they're 6 and 7-year-old children. And Prof. Lamanauskas, this is 1,000 Hills. You've been to 1,000 Hills Community Helpers. And this is us understanding what is happening in terms of their free time and the free session. So we took a tour there. And here is one of the schools, high schools, within the rural area. And you can see from just the appearance of the school there, the appearance of the school, the ceiling falling, not good flooring. And I'm telling you, if I had a visual of the chalkboard, you'd see it's not much of a chalkboard. And learning happens. Teaching is happening within those particular spaces. So what we are doing with regard to community engagement is the enhancement of these particular contexts that are happening within these schools. We cannot work with all the schools. There's over thousands of schools just within our district. We can only work with the few. And then when we can see that there is sustainability in place, there are competences amongst the teachers, the learners are being engaged at levels which are really meaningful. I do not want to say appropriate, I do want to say meaningful. Then we move on to another school. And we will still go back to check and see what is actually happening in all those particular schools. So it's important that when we think about this, we really understand that community engagement is so much more than just theory. Here we had visitors from Latvia, and this was in September. And this is on the Durban Promenade, and Prof. Lamanauskas knows this very well. He's been there. And a beautiful Sunday morning, and we were taking them on a walking tour of the beachfront of Durban itself. Here is a visual of where, with community engagement, I traveled with 8 students to Germany, and we were on a teacher professional tour of the schools and universities in Germany. So you can actually see where we are situated, and you can see which city we are in by the statue that we have behind. And here, here we are with the Denver people. Safari, so you cannot come and not go on a safari. And there we are with this, what am I doing? There we are with the zebras and the giraffe within Tala. Sorry, not Tala, Pezulu, or nature reserve. So this was the first time we had seen so many animals, because they had done a burn about 3 weeks before. And when you do a burn, it's controlled burning of the grassland, so that you are making sure that the weeds and all are all burnt, and then the new growth comes up. And with that new growth coming up, you get a whole lot of the animals in particular sections of the nature reserve. And obviously that's the safari that we were on. So, what we have to think about is, within our community engagement, that's not all, I still have something else to show you, is that it is extensive, and therefore we need to actually think about how, I must close the tray, open share tray, okay. I now want to look at a particular aspect that we are working with. So within community engagement, I've been speaking about servant, I've been speaking about link to modules, etc. What we do, and what my particular focus and my interest is in service learning and research. And with the undergraduate students, I introduced this module in 2007, when no one else was thinking about undergraduate research. And it is amazing how much students grow in these particular modules. So here, I'm just going to take you through how we actually do it, so you get a sense of the importance of the teaching and learning strategies, and how it is that the students are challenged to think differently about who they are and what they need to be able to do. I hope everybody's following. I've been talking for a long time. Are you following?
It's okay. It's okay,
yes.
Angela.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is what we do here in terms of who are we and why are we here. And these are the types of questions that we ask the students within their particular sessions that we have. And then, if you're going to be working with communities, so who are you as the individual? As I said, so how do you see yourself as a community person engaging with others? How do you see yourself as a researcher? And there I've got researcher. So, when you ask the students to do this, you'll be surprised that community, when they see themselves engaging with others, it's invariably them teaching. Because it's a one-track mind. I'm engaging just with the learners in the classroom. And yet, the teaching can be in so many different spaces. It could be at the river where you're doing investigations. One of the big problems that we are having, and we had an enviro meeting on Saturday and Sunday with the big community group that we have, which is the Active Citizen Movement group. One of the big problems that we're having are baby nappies in the rivers. And they are going down the rivers and they're blocking up the drains. So when there is a big or huge downfall, the drains are blocked, the sewage systems are blocked, and then you get all the feces spewing out onto the roads because flow is blocked. So there's so many issues, and we need to know that when we're working with this, it is the issues. And I'm going to come to one of those slides just now. It's the issues that are being confronted with and how we work with that. Okay, so it's important that we do analyses of the drawings. The next one is write the text of what you have drawn. Okay, and then what you will do is you now give your drawing, you fold your text over and you give your drawing to somebody else in the class. So can you see interpretation of drawing? And that's what one would do as a researcher. When somebody does a drawing, you're going to now interview them to tell you about that drawing that they have done. Because as a researcher, I cannot say what that drawing is. I can, but is that the person's interpretation? So we have to go to the first voice. We cannot go to the secondary and tertiary or whatever voices that are there. The first voice is most important. So swap your drawing with the partner. The partner looks at that drawing. And then what happens is now, what are your thoughts and feelings? Okay, so now you swapped, you give back the drawing to the other people. And now you say, so what are your thoughts and feelings? Return the drawings and each to read the two sets of text. So you're going to be reading your have a discussion. And I then say write comments on what has come up from what you have written and what somebody else has written. What has come up? Discuss amongst yourselves, what did you establish and find out? Then we have a poster parade in class, because now we have this big discussion. Now we need to look at all these posters that people have drawn. And let's have an understanding of how analyses of text and analyses of drawings all take place. So when we're looking at research and we're looking at using a visual as a data gathering instrument or tool, then we look at the data gathering mechanism or visual methodology. At the same time, we cannot just use that if we do not know how we're going to analyze it. So the analysis of the data comes through in all of this as well in our introductory sessions with the students. So class, what are your thoughts and feelings? So what have we been doing here? And can you see? So I don't have to go to any literature text to say to them, okay, now we're doing visual methodology. When we do visual methodology, the first sentence says, you must ask, no. I got no time for text of that sort. It is important that we engage, and there's the active learning that is taking place. And then we go to the text to look at and how we can use that to substantiate and support what we are actually working with as well. And here now, when we're working with service learning is, yes, we in the university know about it, but what do the public understand about service learning? What do the public and the community understand about service learning and research? We cannot be ivory towers. We cannot divorce ourselves from communities. We are with, and notice the word, the third word that is so important is with. So it's change, grow, and with. We are with communities. And I did sit in on the presentation by Prof. Duplessis. And as he was presenting, I was thinking to myself, ooh, let me talk. And I thought, no, I can't talk, because if I talk, it's not my presentation, you know. And it's so important that we look at how differently things can actually happen. And their students use canva.com to make a poster. And canva.com is a beautiful, beautiful resource for exactly that particular aspect. And then, so what we're going to do now, and we don't have much time, so I'll just use one of them, is I'm now going to use a case scenario to show you what students actually do when they are doing research and service learning. So if you think about it in terms of what we've been sharing, I started off with understanding who you are. Who are you in this whole process? And then I said, okay, so let's look at what we need to think about in terms of the policy and the aspects of community engagement. Okay, and then now I'm showing you how we link it to our curriculum and to a module when we focus on a particular aspect of community engagement, which is the research and service learning, or I call it service learning and research. Now I'm going on to the fourth part, which is using a case scenario of what a group of students actually did. And this is a group who did it in 2016. Can you see? Can you see the slide? Sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, so what is the scenario here? These are two women. What was the issue? The issue is that they were at a primary school. And how was the primary school identified that that's where they wanted to work? One of the students actually lived across the road from the primary school. And what is the issue with the primary school? They were in 2016, I can assure you now, there are probably so many more. There were over 200 children who were orphans and vulnerable children. In many instances, some of them were belonging to child-headed homes where their elder brother or sister looked after them. There was no parent, there was no granny. With some of them, the grannies looked after them. With some of them, their uncles or aunties looked after them. There were no parents, no so-called mother, father, parents to look after them. And at that school, the infrastructure of the school was very bad. And what they were looking at was the fact that it was so important for them to work with the setting because sanitation was bad. There was a problem with access to food, and they decided to look at healthy living. And you can quite clearly see healthy living is their particular topic. Now, okay, right. So the purpose, so with this, because it's research and service learning, they had to have a purpose. They had to see how to work with this. And obviously they had to work with the purpose and rationale. So I teach them what service learning is about. I teach them what research is about, and then they go ahead. And people say, oh, undergraduate student can't do research. Now that they're doing it with undergraduate students, now they know that they can. And you'll be surprised what students can do. It is phenomenal what students can do. So the opportunities and possibilities are absolutely endless. Okay, so there they have the purpose, and there they have a problem statement as well. And the hygiene and sanitation facilities at the school placement site were found to be in poor condition. They do not have the necessary sanitation requirements. In addition, there were many learners who were part of the orphan and vulnerable children group and are underprivileged. Often the only meal that these learners receive was the meal provided by the school feeding scheme. Okay, so in South Africa, all schools are in quintiles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're in a school of quintile 1, 2, and 3, and I know that Prof. Duplessis may have spoken about this, you are part of a feeding scheme. You get money from the government. That money is used to buy groceries, whatever, and food is cooked for the children who require it at the school. And it's one meal per day. Sometimes the meals that are cooked are atrocious because the people are not using the money for what it is meant to be. Bloody corruption people. So what are the questions? What are learners understanding? So notice the focus is on learners. Teachers were also involved here as well, but the focus was on learners. So we did not want to work with the teachers here because it was the children. Once the children are then educated about this, they're going to take it home, they're going to apply it in their own context, they're going to work with other people in the community. Children are the best people to work with if there's communication and development, not development, but change that needs to happen. Okay, so the research design and methodology, we'll go through this very quickly. Okay, and so there was grade 4 learners and there were 18, and those are the methods that were being used here. The findings was that over 59% of the learners were unable to read questions. So at this level, children were still having a problem to read. Now, why? Because in the South African context, from grade 1 to 3, you learn in your mother tongue. And many of these children, their mother tongue is isiZulu. In grade 4, you switch. I'm talking so much, I didn't drink any water. You switch to English. English is not your mother tongue. Now, grade 4, you have a problem with language. And that is an issue that we are facing throughout many of our primary schools. Okay, so obviously they can't do that. So if you're going to give them an interview, you have to give them pictures or you must speak to them. You can't give them a page, not an interview, a questionnaire. You can't give them a page to write on unless you're interpreting those questions in isiZulu. Then it's fine. But other than that, they're going to have an issue. Okay, the hygiene and sanitation, none of them had an understanding of hygiene and sanitation, the importance of how you washing your hands, and the toilets at that school, if you flushed, there wasn't even a toilet to flush. The children were using toilets outside the toilet building because the toilets were caked up, full, and you could smell the toilet from a mile away. So these girls then decided, okay, they need to do something about this as well. Okay. Nutrition was an issue. They don't have money for nutrition, so how are they going to get food? Okay. So what is it that they need to do? They need to work on that particular issue as well. So gardening is something. So the discussion of data, I think what I will do is just skip that. I'm looking at the time. I've got like 1 minute. Okay, so for their service learning, we've looked at what the issues are. Can I continue after 11? Or must I stop?
Oh, yes, we have 15 minutes left and we need for discussion, some time for discussion.
Okay. I'll do before 15 minutes. Okay. So notice they went into the context. They did a situational analysis. They found out what the issues were within that particular school. And then for their service learning, they have to develop an intervention program that will now work with change. Okay. As I said to you, so it's OVC children. They don't have money. They have an issue with health and sanitation. They have an issue with foods and nutritional things. So what was it that they developed for their service learning? Okay. They developed a garden for sustainable development. You can see how I've changed from 2016 to no more using development, but wanting to use change. And it's the more I work with people and the more I read things and the more I interact with communities, I know that development is not to be worked with. Okay, the sponsorships for food and sanitary packs. So these were also young girls, and sanitary packs also involved not just pads, but also nail clippers, cotton wool, a toothbrush to brush your teeth, a toothpaste. So that's why they decided they would work on healthy living. So you can understand the importance of healthy living. And then they did a whole program with the learners as well on sanitation, hygiene, and good eating habits. And with this visual, you can quite clearly see, and I'm going to take you through what was happening in each one of them. Here, they contacted a supermarket, a local supermarket, and they wrote a letter and they motivated for donations for the children at the school. And the supermarket sent substance food that the children could have. Now, obviously, it's a packet of food. It's a once-off. And this is what the students actually did. Here, the learners got a big packet from one of the pharmacy, our big pharmacy manufacturing company, which is called Dischem. They got all this within that particular packet. Some of the children had never ever had a toothbrush before. It was their first time having a toothbrush, having their own toothbrush, having their own toothpaste, having their own nail brush to clean their nails, their own face cloth, you know? And it's things that we take for granted. So there they were with their packets, and yeah, they are so excited in the class with their packets once they received their packets. And here is when they were going through the program. So there was a program. The students are expected to spend 25 hours in each site. They find the site themselves. They decide how they're going to work on the site with everybody, with the managers and everybody else's understanding. So it's a collaborative type of experience. So everybody, if you walk into that school, everybody knows what is happening at that school. Okay, so there were these programs that was happening. The learners were involved in gardening, as you can see. So they learned the basics. And this gardening that they learned was surface gardening. So they don't have implements to dig at home, to make trenches and furrows to plant. So the basic method that they were taught was surface gardening. So you layer plastic and you layer soil, and in that soil you can then plant. Okay. So, I mean, I could go on and on and on. And this is, so each student has to write a reflective journal. And this is in one of the students, Denosha Mungal, this is in her journal. And this is the beginning of the module. I became stressed and overwhelmed upon receiving the semester planner and seeing the great number of activities that were expected. Testing my limits and capabilities. I'm certain that just as Dr. James surprised me and showed me my hidden abilities in one of the other modules that I taught, she will do the same for this module, and I will discover my talents and abilities. So I'm going to quickly skip to some of the other slides so you can see, and you can see the dates on those reflections as well. And go to one of the last reflections. This module has taught me important qualities such as patience, the importance of effective time management, compassion, empathy, and my role as a member of the community. It has also taught me that I'm more than capable of making a positive change in the community, and I should continue to do so because it leaves me feeling a great sense of joy. This has been the most demanding module, but has taught me that without moving from my comfort zone, I will never grow. Now that the write-up is complete and bound, I certainly feel a great sense of joy, completeness, and fulfillment, which I never would have felt if I deregistered from this module. All the hard work, late nights, and sacrifices have surely paid off. And I must tell you that each student group, they work in groups of 2 or 3. Each student group has to do a seminar on, like this PowerPoint was for the seminar. They have to write up their research in a research report, and they also have a reflective journal that they keep from the beginning of the module to the end of the module. And that's not all. They have like 8 different activities that they have to do. And in completion, what I do want to say, and I'm just going to talk to it because it's actually part of the other slide, the other PowerPoint, and I'm not going to go into it. But in completion, what I do want to say is that we need to understand that teaching and learning, that teaching is, have I hidden the thing? No. Okay. That teaching and learning is really, really, an amazing experience. And we have to think about ourselves as change agents. So I would like to say that in completion or in conclusion, bad word, at the end is, if you're looking at all of this, it's the collaboration. So there's another C word. It's the collaboration that we work with. It's the participation that we work with. It's the inclusive nature of what we do, because some of our students work in different settings. There was a year, was it in 2020? I had over 250 students in this module, and we had to work with those students. This year, I had invited students to be present, but many of them are writing exams and tests, and that's what's happening at this time of the year. And I was so frustrated this morning. I said, come on, one of you, aren't you available? And I thought, leave them. They need to focus on their test, let me be compassionate to them. I just wanted them to share their experience, and I think that was the important thing. So it's about collaboration, it's about participation, it's about being inclusive, it's about understanding yourself. So who are you in this whole cosmos? And remember that you are just a microscopic dot, even less than a dot in this whole world. And even though that is the case, change, opportunities, and possibilities are all there. Thank you so much. I'm on time. Yay!
Thank you, Angela. Thank you.